Just finished watching up the Talladega race. Hold on, I see something I don't. Hold on, wait 1 minute. All right, much better. I don't know why I have Arsenal shirts. Alright, so just finished up watching the Talladega race, and if you guys watch it too, you know what's happened. If you haven't watched it and you're watching this video, I'll try to explain what has happened. In short summary, it was the best plate race I have seen in a long time. I think there have been maybe a few Daytona races that I might have enjoyed more, but for Talladega, it's probably been over a decade since we've seen something like that. I think the last one that was that good was probably that 2012 Dega race where they literally wadded everyone up in the fall race. But it was still a very good race. This one had a lot of things. So let's start from the beginning and talk about the type of racing and why it was so good. The last few plate races, plate races, we can't really call them plate races anymore because this package doesn't have a restrictor plate. It has a tapered spacer, 550 horsepower. You guys probably knew that already. So there's more horsepower for what you typically have at Daytona and Talladega. So what NASCAR had to do was add a ton of drag. And they did that by having the most ridiculous tall spoiler I've ever seen. I mean, the thing looked like a 1970s Thunderbird, basically. Was it called the Thunderbird? I don't know. I don't know my car history. But you know those cars back in the 70s with those really high wings and stuff. But yeah, basically, the spoiler was massive. A few other drag components on there, too. They made some adjustments as well throughout the weekend. And what happened was you had speeds around 200, more like 202 miles per hour, but around 200 miles per hour, which is right about where you kind of want them to be. But the big difference was you had runs. There were a lot of runs, and the drivers were able to really kind of be able to do what they wanted with those runs. A train never really formed throughout the entire race. I mean, maybe you had a few laps being single file, but there was never a real train. I think there was a few things that really helped with this. Number one, the package definitely was much better. You could get more runs. Number two, you had everyone working as a team. So you had Fords working as a team, Toyota working as a team, and Chevy working as a team, where in the past, usually maybe it was only Ford working as a team and not Toyota and Chevy as much. We saw in the Daytona 500 that Chevy and Toyota formed a slight alliance. That wasn't really the case here today because all the Chevy teams formed an alliance. And now you have all these alliances coming together and you have really good racing. I think when one manufacturer had the dominant stranglehold on the plate race, you couldn't really get them to move, and that way you get single file. But when you have everyone pretty equal, I would say, you had the Fords are pretty equal, the Chevys were equal, the Toyotas were equal, and so everyone just raced. But they raced as a team, and it was really nice to see. I think big credit to the Penske guys who did make a lot of moves. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. being who Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is, he is incredibly aggressive, and you see why a lot of drivers don't like working with him, but he's entertaining for the show. And then you had the Chevy guys, Elliott, Bowman, Kurt Busch, Larson, Byron, Ty Dillon, Austin Dillon, all these guys, Ryan Preece, they all work together. Chris Buescher as well. They were very, very patient with being in line, and kudos to them because they really made it a good battle with the Fords. I would prefer, everyone kind of racing on their own, but this is kind of how it has to be. You have to work as a team. I think they finally realized, especially the Chevy guys and some of the Toyota guys as well, that yes, you can make moves on your own, but you can't stay up towards the front on your own. You need your friends. You need to be able to line up and control the race. And let's talk about the beginning of the race now. We had our first real incident was Bubba Wallace. He was pushing Blaney, didn't want to wreck Blaney because Blaney got a little bit squirrely, which happened a lot this race. And then Bubba, the car unloaded on him, and he went to the outside wall, took out Kevin Harvick, who's having a miserable season according to his standards. And Bubba Wallace is out of the race. He is someone that has not been, the guy has talent, and I think all you guys know that I love Bubba Wallace. I think he's really good, but he makes a ton of mistakes, and this was another one. He wasn't trying to wreck the guy in front of him, but he ended up wrecking himself. And he's just very error-prone. It doesn't really matter what the track is. He's very error-prone. He's fast, but he's error-prone. And, when you put him in a car that's not that good, this kind of stuff happens. And Kevin Harvick just has not had that good of a season. So, this was just luck. You can't really do much about it. The end of stage one had a little bit of pit strategy. Some people had to pit because they just couldn't make it to end on field because that caution fell at a certain time in the pit stop window. So then Ty Dillon wins the stage, and he deserved it. I tell you, the Chevys were working together. Bowman was second behind him, and Ty Dillon wins the stage. Ty Dillon, the man, the myth, the legend, he's doing very well. He's won more stages than Martin Truex Jr., think that's all I need to say about that. Okay, so we move on to stage 2, and again, the racing is just it's really good. I mean, you have to watch the race to see it. I can't provide you all the clips, but the racing is really good. The cars are, the best way I could explain it is the cars are out of control, but drivers are still in control. There's a fine line where you have to get to at a plate race where you can't give the drivers too much control, because then they get kind of very comfortable. It's kind of weird way, and a lot of times the runs don't happen that way. But you can't have them be out of control, which is what we've had in a few plate races in the past, especially with the Gen 6 car, where drivers feel so uncomfortable with the car that they just don't want to make a move. They can't make a move because they have no comfort. So this was the perfect balance of, I'm a little bit in control, but I'm a little bit out of control. If you guys saw throughout most of the race, especially looking at the Penske guys, Logano, Keselowski, and Blaney, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and looking at how those guys maneuvered their cars, they were always out of control while being in control. They were swerving a little bit. They were a little bit loose at times. And Kyle Busch as well was a wheelman. He was wheeling it as well. But that's the key. That was the key. You had to just be on that little line of giving the drivers that kind of control they want, and then making them kind of really be very edgy. This also made 4 tires pretty important. You saw teams want to pit for 4 tires under every caution, because it gives you the maneuverability that you want. If you end up going on old tires, not the best. So that's that strategy play that comes into it. And I think the more the tracks age, which it's been a while since these tracks have been repaved, talking about Daytona and Talladega, it's been over a decade now, the more these tracks age, the more slick they're going to get. Now, the repavement jobs in Talladega and Daytona have been, they're not going to age like they used to. Daytona's not going to become the bumpy Daytona pre-2007. Talladega's not going to become the kind of Talladega that it was pre-2006. But the pavement will age, and it will age in a way where the track will become slick, and these plate races, as NASCAR, goes into the future, they're going to have to adapt the package to make sure drivers always have that enough control where they can make the moves they want, but they gotta be very weary of what they want. Stage 2 ended up with Chase Elliott winning the stage. Again, the racing was great in the entire stage, and again, the Chevys worked together. The Chevys weren't dominating the entire race. I mean, they really weren't up front a lot of the race. It's just they came at the right time, and stage 2 was their time. Also, into stage 2 to stage 3 was also their time. It was Elliott, Bowman, Byron, Austin Dillon, Ty Dillon. I don't think Ty Dillon was up there actually at this point, but Austin Dillon was up there. William Byron, I already said his name. Ryan Preece was up there as well. Kyle Larson, forgot him, and Kurt Busch. Those guys were all working together very well. Meanwhile, you had Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, the Penske guys, and then you had the other Fords as well in there trying to work together. Stenhouse, being a Ford, but being the loneman guy, he was really working with the Fords when he could, and then doing what he could for himself. And he was making the race really entertaining. You had Kyle Busch, who didn't really have a lot of friends. He was just kind of maneuvering in and out by himself because him and Truex never really were able to get hooked up. The Joe Gibbs guys never really had that kind of pace. And in the final stage, you saw a ton of really, really good racing. And what I noticed throughout the last 40 laps of the race was that the Chevys were all lined up on the bottom. If you want to rewatch the race, they're all lined up on the bottom, and they never make a move. Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Bowman, and they're in this exact order. Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Bowman. I think after Bowman, it was Austin Dillon. After Dillon, it was Larson, and then Byron. I think that was the lineup that they were in. Maybe Preece after that. They never, not one of them make a move. The entire run, the last run for the final stage. They all just stay there. They don't make a move. And this was kind of odd because if you are Austin Dillon and if you are William Byron, you feel like there's no way you're going to be able to win from wherever you are. But they did teamwork and they stayed there. And they stayed there. And they stayed there. And they always stay hooked up on the bottom. Meanwhile, the Penske guys and the Toyota guys and everyone else, they're in the top 2-3 lanes, and they're just going 3 wide, 4 wide, and they're battling it out up there. So it was a patience game from the Chevys, and it was I want to get to the front for the Fords, especially Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Those guys really were trying to get up towards the front. Only a few laps to go. Big wreck happens. Buescher, DiBenedetto involved. DiBenedetto was running third just a few laps before this, but got shuffled out because of all the big runs that are happening. Big hit, but everyone's okay. And I tweeted at this moment, if Chevy can get lined up, if that can happen, they will probably win the race. Because I could see when you get lined up around that initial restart, they have a lot of momentum. Logano would be a sitting duck. And that's exactly what happened. Right on the initial restart, Kurt Busch is able to drop in front of Chase Elliott. And I think it was there was another car in the back that was also able to drop in. It was the 4th Chevy in line, I think. It must have been Austin Dillon or must have been William Byron, one of those two. But they were able to drop in. So next thing you know, you have Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, and Austin Dillon. They're all... Not Austin Dillon wasn't actually there. It was Byron. There was another Chevy. It was a lot of Chevys on the bottom. It's hard to remember. Hold on, gotta adjust the camera. Okay, back. So you had Kurt Busch leaving his brother out to dry, basically, who restarted second. And that was pretty unfortunate for Kyle, but that's because he had no friends, and this is the whole manufacturer thing that I was talking about. And then Kurt Busch makes a move on Stenhouse, and he forces to the bottom lane. He might have been below the WL line, but I didn't hear anything from NASCAR. But he was able to force Stenhouse out. Now you have Logano against 5 Chevys. And this is when I knew Logano was in trouble. However, it didn't happen the way I thought it would, because Kurt Busch makes a move to the outside, and Logano goes to block. However, it opens the door for Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman didn't make a move. The last 50 laps of the race, they never moved from the bottom. Not once. Not one single time did they decide to go to the top lane. They waited for everything to open up. Kurt Busch had the run. He took the run because he felt like, and I agree with him, he had to be in the lead. He had to. He had to be in the lead to win the race. I feel like anyone who's in the lead coming to the white flag would win the race. He tried it, and Logano was not able to get back down in time to block Elliott. And next thing you know, Logano and Kurt Busch are on the outside lane. They have no help. The bottom lane with all the Chevys just rolls right on through. Now you have Ford. Why does my camera keep slipping? Oh my God. Are we stationary now? Are we good? Am I centered? Can you stop? Okay, there we go. Anyways, back to the end of the race. You have 4 Chevys lined up, and then the big one happens. So no one's able to make the move. This is when Larson goes for a ride, to say the least. And big wreck happens. Started with, I think it was William Byron got turned somewhere in the top. Good thing was everyone was okay. But why I'm worried is because NASCAR usually doesn't like cars getting airborne, and they might try to slow these cars down. I don't want them touching this package. I think the package is great. I don't know if slowing the speeds down will actually hurt the runs or how it's going to work. They'd have to add more drag onto it, but I don't want them taking any more or putting a even extended tapered spacer on there to add horsepower. I just hope they keep it the same. Luckily, Larson was safe, but they won't probably keep it the same. They'll probably change it, but hopefully not. End of the day, Chase Elliott wins the race with fantastic teamwork from everyone, and it was a great finish. It was a great race. Elliott wins. He's in the playoffs. That winning in is stupid. Trust me, I know, but he's in the playoffs, and Chevy finally showed something. It's been years since Chevy showed something. They showed competence, they showed patience, they showed speed. I think it's no coincidence that the Hendrick cars did not qualify like they usually qualify at plate races. It looked like they adjusted their cars a little bit more to be better in a pack, just like the Penske guys have been doing this entire time, and they finally learned a little bit. But also the biggest thing that helped was the teamwork between all of them. And that was very impressive for Chevy. And that shows in the race results. You see Elliott, Bowman, Preece, Hemrick, Kurt Busch, Brendan Gaughan. I don't know how Brendan Gaughan is in there. I didn't even know he was in this race. But he is in there in the top 10. Logano finishes in 4th. I really did think he'd win if the Chevys didn't line up. But once the Chevys lined up, it was going to be pretty hard to hold him back. And that is your top well, you see the rest of the top 10, actually. Logano's in there, Ryan Newman is in there, Almirola, and Kyle Busch is in there as well. Corey LaJoie gets a good 11th place finish. Suarez Keselowski fights back from a very odd incident where I guarantee he could probably never do this again, and he perfectly pitted backwards in his pit stop after, trying to slow down. So good job to Keselowski trying to get back to 13th place after that miraculous little pit stop thingy. Again, that was amazing. Probably, but you know what? He gets a driver of the race for doing that, because that was amazing. Austin Dillon in 14th, Ryan Blaney, Menard, Ty Dillon, Reed Sorensen, Eric Jones, Truex, and the rest of the field who would end up in the wreck. The Larson wreck is going to be a big talking point for the future, just because, again, his car got airborne before it hit the wall. NASCAR's not going to like that, so they're probably going to try to change the package a little bit to slow the cars down. But, in my opinion, it was a 10 out of 10 race. I don't see an issue with this race at all. If you want the package to be better, what are you necessarily looking for? They were 4 wide, 3 wide. The lead was always changing, and it was the runs. The runs were amazing. They were able to get to someone, make a move. The drivers were competent. The wreck didn't happen until late in the race, so you had a full 180 laps of just entertainment with a ton of cars in the field and energy in the pack. So I don't necessarily, if you're complaining about the package, know what you want from the package, because this was a 2003 to 2005 Talladega race. It was very, very, very good, and it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Whether this will showcase at Daytona is a different track. Talladega, they usually end up racing differently. The only thing I don't want to see at these races is the train. If the train doesn't happen, then the drivers usually race. The issue is the train happens and they don't. And I think the drivers has noticed that if you can give them a package where you can't necessarily take everyone at the top, then they can race and they can have a lot of fun and be good doing at it. Or be good, what is that? No, that's not even English. But we'll see how Daytona goes. Hopefully no train. Hopefully the package stays the same. Probably NASCAR slows them down a little bit. I kind of don't want them to. They probably will, though. And hopefully the runs stay the same and all that. It's going to be a interesting race. It will be hot in July at Daytona, so we'll see how it's going to be similar conditions to Talladega, to be honest, just at night. If I missed out on anything, let me know down in the comments below. I'm trying to think if I did. I don't really think I did. It was, again, a really, really good race. I would say the race itself is 10 out of 10. The only thing I could say maybe the Fox broadcast was, I don't know. The one thing I found that they could have definitely avoided is they went to commercial on the final stage with 34 to go, which was right in the pit window. They should technically know when these teams are going to try to pit, and So they came back, and everything was, you didn't know what was happening. The Chevy's already pitted, Keselowski was backwards in his pit stall, and you were just like, what the heck did I miss during commercial? That was really bad. A lot of the early wrecks happened while Fox was under commercial, which I know that's just like a luck thing, but they were under commercial a lot, and I don't know. Fox, it seems like a consensus decision that NBC has been doing a better job as of recently with the production quality. Mike Joy's fantastic. We're not saying Mike Joy's a problem. It's just the production quality, the times you go to commercial, when you come back. DW is retiring, and probably a good idea because he's just not really with it. Doesn't feel right anymore. And, Jeff Gordon tries his best, to say the least, but it's just not the best. But the race itself, 10 out of 10. And we go on to next week. I don't even know what the next race is, to be honest. Next race is Dover. We'll see how that goes. I have no idea if they're using the new package there. I don't think they are. Are they using the new package? Are we going to have tapered spacers at Dover? Because that's going to be weird. I don't think they are, but they might. I don't know. Anyways, let's see what happens there. If you guys liked the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know how you enjoyed the Talladega race. And hopefully you get that in the fall as well. Hopefully we could get that play race all the time. I'm good with it. Just no trains. I'll see you guys later. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And screw Arsenal. Peace out.